All right, we are live. Welcome to the episode 3, I believe, of Confessions of a Mediocre Producer. Micah, how are you this morning?
I'm good. Good. I was sick for a couple days, had a cold, and now I sound like I still probably don't feel great, but I feel a lot better. So ready to hit
Well, I
it.
can tell you, and via camera, you look awful.
Really? I
Legit.
thought I looked pretty good, man.
I'm just kidding.
Thanks.
All right, well, let's keep it short and sweet. Get right into this. Um, all right, so last week, I, despite the number of calls, I actually had a very productive week. I lost a whole day and a half to fatherhood and different commitments with um, kids masses and like a, a school fair and whatever. All
Sure.
right, so anyways, I hit 112 calls,
Okay.
12 decision maker discussions,
Okay.
and 2 new business meetings. And I think I mentioned this last week. I'm not sure, but I've had two of the previous, like I ended up having two of the meetings from previous calls and have gotten policies.
Good.
And interestingly, both of them are in really good position. There's nowhere to go with them. So I had a question around that. And then, so let me hit you with my two questions. Number
Okay.
one, it looks like two of the other due diligence. I've made my calls. I've gone behind the scenes. I've reviewed their policies. I mean, it just their agent did a good job. There's nowhere else to go. So I'm just going to basically call them and say, "Hey, I've reviewed everything. It looks really good." So I know that you're not happy with your premiums, but
Yep.
I can tell you this is the best that's available or that I'm aware of. Is that what your thought? Is that how you handle it?
Yeah, I think depends. I would ask you, I guess in your first call with these folks, did they mention anything about service or did you have a discovery call with them? I know not every due diligence you have a long discovery call because sometimes you feel like you don't need to. It's pretty straightforward, but did you guys
No,
talk about
no.
anything else beyond just
Oh,
premium and, you know, due diligence?
one of them yes, the other one no.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, it was, and shame on me, but both of them, I just didn't even go down the due diligence call because once I saw where they were and how competitively it was priced, I just kind of hit the road. I just threw the hit the brakes.
Yeah. Um, okay, well, what I would have probably done on those deals is when you do this, I think it starts at your setup, is mention that you'd have a discovery call, right, or a research call might take 10 minutes with them after you review the policies. I like to throw that out there because, well, one, I try to do it most of the time. There are some times where it's like you have that first meeting set up conversation and they're like, well, we love our agent, but sure, yeah, if you want to do some due diligence, and so if it's like those scenarios, then yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to maybe talk about. But the reason I like to do the discovery call is because sometimes you still come back with them and like, dude, things come up, right? We've talked about kind of peeling the layers back of the onion. Like they think they say they're happy, but then all of a sudden, yeah, they get you the policies. Then you have your discovery call, and then more little things kind of come up in conversation. And then you're like, okay, maybe I have something to work with here. I have an angle to take. I can tell them the program's awesome, their pricing's great, but you did tell me you're getting the renewal all the time last minute, or you did tell me you're having a claims problem. You did tell me, there's something that you can add value on that their current guy's not doing from just a communication service idea type side of things. Um, and then when you come back to that final presentation, you might be shocked, but there's been times I presented and I got an AOR mainly because he didn't have one guy was like, "Oh, I don't have EPLI, man. I need this. This is why we got to leave our broker." Like he's not proactive at all. And literally the program was pretty fine, but they didn't have EPLI. So you might say that, that's what I'm saying. Like there's things, and I get this question a lot, not just in this conversation, but from people that hit me up like, "Man, I can't find anything." It's like you're not going to always find like glaring exclusions for exactly what they do that's going to be an automatic fireable offense. Like that just doesn't happen that often. And so I think that's where the discovery call, that's the importance of having that call, or unless you have a really long first conversation and then that sets up the due diligence. But if it's a short conversation, they like what they hear. Hey, yeah, we'll get you our policies, and then that's the only interaction you have, and then to come back and say, hey, man, you're in a good spot. That's fine. I'm just saying you might be leaving some opportunities out there. Odds are probably not, but you never know. Um,
That's why I like these calls, is because I know that. I mean, that's literally in the producer playbook. But like, you just get caught in the day to day, and
yeah.
it's like, I'm making calls. You get the policies in, everything looks good. They didn't mention anything about their broker, so you just go on to the next one. But it's like, no, you got to get back to basics. Let's do the fundamentals. I totally know that. I
Yep.
totally know what you just said, but somehow it just on both of these just totally missed
Well,
it.
and then two quick things it does is one, let's say you have a discovery call with them, right? And they confirm, man, we love our agent, blah, blah, blah. You still don't tell them that on that call, hey, you're good then. You say, okay, let me just button things up. I'm going to cross-reference what you said versus what I saw, and I'll call you back in another couple days. If I've had this happen, I think I told this story to you, like where I got the 6 bottles of wine sent to me and all this other stuff, just a couple of weeks ago. Dude, that was one where I met with them first meeting, reviewed the policies, had a couple, we had a conversation, but they loved their agent. They're like, we're only do this for price. That's why, and then we want to make sure they're hitting the markets. So I did what I did. I emailed them like a page and a half back of my findings and got the 6 bottles of wine. And she's like, hey, thank you so much. Like, if we ever have an issue, you're the only person I'm calling. So now I talk about playing the long game. That's kind of how you do it, right? That's the point of this. You're planting seeds always, and some just take a little bit longer to harvest. But then on the flip side, like I said, there's things that just when you get into that final conversation, if you can get to a final meeting and you've had at least 2 interactions, and then you just get into a conversation, you just be shocked at how much people just start pouring out, or sometimes things pop up. I just had this happen last week. The deal. I was like, they're pretty good. I found some things, but I don't think it's fireable, maybe. And then we have an hour-long conversation, and now I'm like, man, I might get this deal, right? So I don't know how it's going to pan out. It's $30,000 deal, but revenue. So, anyways, yeah, we all need to be reminded,
Nice.
so don't beat yourself up. It happens.
100%. I just get super transactional. Like as I'm chasing yearly revenue, it's like it's
Hmm.
always I'm a what's the word?
Move on kind of guy, like, kind of.
I'm just very transactional. I'm always trying to like, how can I get this thing tomorrow? And I'm not the best at taking a 10,000 foot view. Um, Long term type strategy. Okay, second thing, I come in on what was that? Was that Thursday I talked to you, or was that
I think
Friday?
so.
It was either
We
Thursday or
talk
Friday.
we talk all the
I come
time, so
in.
I don't know.
Yeah, you blow me up all the time. It just really gets old. Um, Thursday, I think it was Thursday. I come in. I'm set up. I've got my stuff ready to make my calls, and then all of a sudden, the one the nice size deal that I'm really
Mm,
was waiting on policies to get in to review. Um, it hits at like 9:15. I'm like, you know, 6, 7 calls in. I
yep.
see it. I immediately stop because I want to see what's in the policies. I get in. I look in the policies. I also send it to another guy in my office for him to review because we all kind of bounce stuff off of each other. He writes a number of this class of business. He tells me, "Hey, call this." Long story short, basically what happened is you open this door and then you go down this rabbit hole because you're trying to like see. You can tell pretty quickly if there's something there or not. And
Yep.
I look up and it's an hour later. I've talked with a couple of underwriters. Anyways, just totally blew up my call block. So,
Yep.
what's your take on this as far as this
Staying
example?
focused.
Do you when you do you
Here's
literally just put the blinders on and only make calls? Like, how do you handle that?
I think there is some people that do that, right? That are so disciplined that do that. So this isn't a shot at them. If you can be that excellent all the time, dude, that's awesome, right? It's a superpower, I guess. But I think it's kind of like diet or anything. Like for me, like I try to eat really healthy, but dude, I'm gonna have ice cream here and there. I'm gonna have a piece of pizza once in a while, right? I think it's the same thing with focus and prospecting. Like I think you don't want to be scrolling LinkedIn to those other stuff while you're trying to prospect. So in your case, these policies popped up in your inbox. And I think it's only human nature. I do this at least. I usually open them right really quickly just to see like, oh, what are they actually paying? It's kind of like a kid in a candy store. We all have that little bit of excitement, you know. Um, but then the key becomes what do you do after that? So open it up, look at it, and then close it down, and just know in your head, all right, dude, I got 4 o'clock this afternoon or noon or lunchtime. But I just and look at the clock. I'm committed to myself for the next hour to make these calls until I hit X amount, right? And that's just something you just gotta. It's all those little decisions. That's what life really is. It's just a bunch of little decisions stacked up that equal the end results. And so that was, your little situation there is a microcosm of what happens in a lot of different situations. Like, you had that one split second. You could have looked at it, but nope, you sent it on to the guy. Then he sent it back. Then you got all excited. Then you made some calls, whatever. And that's just what. So now that it happened, now you got to be more mindful this week. Like, hey, all right, if it happens again, and maybe you can't open the PDF, right? Because not everyone's got the same level of discipline. Like, so you got to ask yourself that question. Only you can answer that. Like, can I open the PDF? Can I even have my email up? You know, I'm pretty good at it. Like having it there and sticking on task and still be okay. No, for this hour, I'm making calls. Yeah, I can browse emails. If something really really urgent pops up, sure. But not everyone, dude. We all got different levels of discipline, and it's a skill that we've talked about. You can work on. Um, so, anyways, yeah, my answer would be, you gotta answer that question for yourself, um, in terms of what level of distraction you can handle while making calls and still get your calls done. But I do think
10-4 ain't
there's something powerful when you can truly do like a 50-minute session and be like, dude, I'm laser focused in. It's not easy, but you can do it. I
anything else you want to touch on before we end
Yeah,
it?
the only yep, just two quick things. You mentioned your parenting duties kind of sabotaged your call volume results. I would say kind of yes, maybe that cost you 40 calls, but you're still 112, and you mentioned like this type of thing, right? Popped up. So realistically, you still could be at the 125, 150 range, right? Even if you would have had all your parenting stuff. So, again, it's kind of just brings back that point of use those hours really, really well when you got them, because especially when you're a parent, you got things going on, like, stuff's going to pop up. So you just got to use that to stay extra focused. And the only other thing I would just ask you, are you, are you keeping track of follow-up laters, like follow-up later list or anything like that? Because you mentioned 2 meetings set. I just don't hear you ever say like, yeah, I got three, you talked to 12 people, you had 2 yeses. What happened to the other 10? And if you didn't do it last week, that's fine. But that's one thing I would definitely start doing.
So I have a sheet here, only have one name on it. And it was basically, I think I talked about it last week, where they said like they're happy, but they do want to stay in touch and talk closer to renewal. But I'm not. If I'm talking to a decision maker and they're not interested, I am not putting them on a follow up later list.
No, no, but the follow-up later list is the people that you have a little bit of a conversation and they truly say, yeah, I might be interested. I just right now is bad timing, but give me like 2 months. That's what I mean by follow
Yeah,
up later. Or give me,
I've only got literally one of those. Everybody's either
that
been yeah I'm interested or like nah we're good.
that's fine. No, hey, that's better than putting everyone on a follow up later list that shouldn't really be there. So, um, yeah, no. Well, I think the big takeaway for me this week is, and this as well, is just stay focused during the hours you have, because stuff's going to pop up, and from a productivity, and then from just an actual tactical strategic stuff, just remember the importance of having a discovery call and having some conversations to peel back the layers to dig deeper on some of these deals you get in the door.
I'm writing it down. All
And
right,
then
dude, let's end it
yeah,
there, and then we'll
go get
hop
them.
on the. Yep, appreciate it.
See ya.
You the man.